Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, first of all, let's say our praise and gratitude to the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, who has given us mercy and blessing. So in this afternoon, we can meet here in good condition. Okay, a little bit about One Asia Foundation. One Asia Foundation is a non-profit organization that aims to contribute the establishment of Asian community in the future through the various activities such as of education, economy, cultural exchange, and others that create a community of Asia which is safe and peaceful. One Asia Foundation, in collaboration with Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Tadulako University, conduct the General Lecture Series with the theme for the second year, Education of ASEAN Community Development. And today, we have a very special guest lecture. Yeah, it's different with two our guest lecture before, because we have very beautiful guest lecture, and I think this is the first time for us to have guest lecture from our lecturer or scholar from Russia. So welcome to the okay. So I just want to explain about Dr. Olga Barabanova. She is invited lecturer at the Teacher Training Institute of the Pacific State University, also Director of Studies at the Language School, ALC School, and the examiner for the authorized Cambridge Examination Center in Khabarovsk, Russia. And she also manager of One Asia Foundation lecture series in Khabarovsk for 2 years ago. For 2 years and for 2 series, I think. So today is our third series in the second year. So today the theme is cultural and historical ties of the Russian Far East and Asian countries. So it will be delivered by Dr. Olga Barabanova. Okay, students, we don't have many time, so don't miss her talk today, because she will share about Russia, and this is, I think, the new knowledge for us. So now your time, Dr. Olga.
There are too many students, and I'm all glad to see you. Well, I will say a few words about myself, and today I'm not going to just stay here and say wah 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 wah. No, I will try to talk to you. And we will try to interact, okay? And you may ask questions during the lecture time or after it, okay? Okay, so thank you very much. Well, first of all, please. First of I'd like to express my gratitude to Tadulako University and to One Asia Foundation to be able to stand in front of you and to talk to you and to share my views and to speak about my country. So thank you very much. Well, and it seems to me that's always interesting to learn something about the person who is in front of you. You know that I'm from Russia, right? Yeah, but do you know where exactly I'm from? I'm from Khabarovsk, and when the time comes, I'll show you on the map where is this city. I was born and I got education at Khabarovsk. That's my native town. And I had a teaching experience of 18 years. And I got my master, and actually I have 2 master degrees. I'm the teacher of English philology and translation studies, and as well I have the economic degree. I am the specialist in business administration, like real estate estimation. I even tried to work as the real estate manager, but, well, that's not my business. I'm the teacher. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yeah. But I was sent to Germany. I got education in Germany as well. I was trained as the interpreter. Okay, so something connection. That's better to switch as the interpreter with the United Nations organization. So I have lots of experience as the interpreter, but still, now I'm the director of studies at the language school, but I still have my students, I still have English classes, so I like it very much. Well, but actually, my goal here was, well, to tell you something about Russia, to get acquainted you with the history of the territory, but also I would like to bring the touch of the Russian culture, maybe the taste of the Russian food, and I would like you to love Russia and to understand that Russia is an integral part of Asia, of Asian countries. And I believe that when you grow up, when you become politicians, diplomats, businessmen and businesswomen, you will remember our meeting, and you will do business with this understanding in mind, that the goal here is to broaden the borders between countries, and actually there will be not one Asia, as we have courses on one Asia community, but there will be one world. Yeah, so that's the noble idea, the noble goal. Okay, and when I got invitation to give a lecture in Indonesia, well, I read my brains and I tried to understand what do I know about Indonesia, and I caught myself that not so much as I wanted. I know that there is Denpasar, Bali, and that's the very famous resort place, you see? Yeah, so, and that's the destination for the summer holiday for Russian people. But to be honest, I've never been to Bali before, and this is my first time in Indonesia. Well, but now I know some facts about Indonesia, and there is no need to say that experts, economists nowadays believe that Indonesia is the member of the Next 11. Have you ever heard about that? Next 11. Have you? Okay, I will tell you. That notion appeared due to some economists, American one, Jill O'Neill, and they say that there are 11 countries, and they are the largest, or they will be the largest economies in the 21st century. So they are, let me not mix anything, they are Bangladesh, they are Egypt, they are Mexico, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Well, South Korea, Turkey, and and Indonesia. I think that there's no need to say that Asia takes the 8th place in the world for its gross domestic product. That's $3 billion. Yeah? And it takes the 4th place for the population. How many people live here? Do you know? In Indonesia. So please, well actually I may ask people, so who knows how many people live here? So who knows? I read. So that's 257 million people in Indonesia. And in Russia, you will see on the map how big is Russia. And in Russia we have only 146 million people. So that's it. And now I know that Indonesia is the Islamic country, but that's the circular one. Here you have religious freedom. Okay, so that's major things I know about Indonesia. And I hope that at the end of my lecture, you will be able to answer my questions and you will learn something about Russia, okay? So, where is the here? And before we start talking about the historical times, I would like to ask you some questions, okay, on Russia. Here. Well, here are 3 flags. Do you know which one is the Russian one? 1, 2, 3. This one. Yeah, right you are. And what about this one? Do you know what country is it? That's Yugoslavia. And this one? This one. Who knows? France. Right, sure. Okay, so bingo. Next question. Who is the president of the Russian Federation? This one? No? This one? No? This one? And what's his name? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? What's his name? I miss buttons. Okay, the next question. I think that each country has a symbolic animal. And which one? This one? This one? The bear. Yes or no? Yes, right here. And what about the elephant? That's the symbol of what country? Do you know? India, right? India. And what about the bison? What about the bison? That's the USA, yeah? So usually when we speak about the bison, we think about the USA. Well, and actually, I know you have also a symbolic animal. What's the name of it? Garuda bird. And what does it symbolize? What does it symbolize? So, a bear symbolizes power and the size, yeah? And what about the Garuda bird? It symbolizes the discipline, the honesty, right? Okay, next. Well, where is Russia? So, the blue one, the green one, or the orange one? So, I will move here. So, do you know? Well, which one? The blue one? The yellow? Number 2, right you are, absolutely, right you are. So, you know lots of things about Russia. And what about the blue one? What country is that? What is that? The USA and this one? Australia, correct. Yeah. And now please, look at the map. This is the world map. And what color is Russia? What color is Russia here? have the east part of Russia. That's where I'm from. My city is here. This one. Can you imagine how long I flew to you?
Russia is Khabarovsk, again Khabarovsk, and there are several cities which organize the territory, and the territory is called Khabarovsk Krai. So you may read here, it's a federal subject of Russia located in the center part of the Russian forest, and so that's the capital of the region. And here you see some numbers, the population, not of Khabarovsk, but of Khabarovsk region. And the area is practically 800. Remember as many things as you can, because at the end of the lecture, I'll ask you some questions, okay? By the way, I forgot to ask you, do you understand me? Well, you can understand everything, right? So my pronunciation is okay? Okay, thank you. Well, let's go on. Here, well, I'll be moving from this part to this one, okay? Okay, so here, this is the emblem. This is the flag. Sorry. Okay, this is the flag of Khabarovsk Krai, not of Khabarovsk city, and this is the coat of arms. And you see that the symbolic animal is here, that's the Himalayan bear. And he is holding the symbol of Khabarovsk itself. Okay, now maybe there's time to pass on to some historical ties between the territory of Khabarovsk Krai, the territory of Khabarovsk, and the eastern countries. I'm mixing the buttons, I'm sorry. Here. Okay. Khabarovsk region history. Okay, well, in the Middle Ages, the territory of Khabarovsk Krai was inhabited mainly by people of Tungus Manchu group, and they were known as Nivs. But in China, these people were known as wild Georgian people, and here you can see some pictures of Chinese people of that time. In the 13th, 14th century, the Mongol rulers of Russia, of China, repeatedly organized some military crusades to conquer the territories of Lower Amur Basin. So, by the way, we have the river, which is called the Amur River. And there is the right side of the Amur River and the left bank of the Amur River. And that was the question, whose territories these are? Russians. So, in the 13th, 14th century, there were some tribes living on the territory, but in the 17th century, Russians understood the importance of the land, and they sent some troops to to develop the lands and to mark the borders between China and the Russian Empire. There were some very famous explorers. The first one who came to this place, to our modern Khabarovsk territory, was named Ivan Moskvitin. He came to the Siovokotsk, military posts appeared, but still there were some indigenous people. But there were some more expeditions, and two more explorers named Vasily Poyakov and Yerofey Khabarov. Well, actually he was the one who gave the name of the city. They came to the territory and they tried to mark the border. So the territory was very quickly populated, but there happened the war conflict between China and between Russia. That was the conflict with the Zhen dynasty. And in 1680s, Manchus started to fight
against Russia, against the Russian state. Well, Russia was unable to send military troops to their territory at those times, and that's why they had to sign the treaty. That's an important treaty. This treaty marked the borders between the Russian Empire and China, and the treaty is called Treaty of Nerchinsk. Nerchinsk is the city, well, no, not the city of course, so that's the post where this treaty was signed, and it happened in 1689. In the 18th century, the territory became very, very prosperous. The Silverkotsk became the main port, and Russians decided to claim lands back. And in 1847, there was another man who did his best to return the lands, Russian lands, to the Russian Empire. And here we may see Russian territory, and it is still the Russian territory. The borders were never changed. And in 1860, after the second treaty, this part became the Russian part. So that part of land was called the land of the Russian Empire. And this is the person, Prince Gong, and that's the picture how the Treaty of Beijing was signed. So these two people made history. For the railway stations, well, the railway, and lots of people came, but mostly they were peasants. They were not researchers, not scientists, but they were just simple people, and they built roads, they built houses, and they tried to develop the city. Well, here I would like you to look at the city of 1900. That's how Khabarovsk looked like. Okay, so the upper one is the okay, so this is the central part of Khabarovsk, and this is the Amur embankment. Now we have the very good embankment here. People walk here, so it has changed completely. Please pay attention to this building. I will tell you about it later. And this one. This is the main street of Khabarovsk. And this building and this building, they are still there. They're standing in the central street and they're still there. But the interior, well, everything is changed around those buildings. Okay, let's pass on. And now, that's my city. That's where I'm from. That's the modern Khabarovsk. And if you look here, that's winter, you see? So that's winter. That's church and winter time. And that's ice figures. Ice figures. They're very, very famous during the winter time. And that's another attraction. These are the ponds. And that's a cafe. And this is the railway station. So that's how beautiful it is. So just for you to understand how my city has changed. Well, let's continue. Well, historically, I will repeat again that historically the Asian part of Russia had close connections with Asian countries, Japan and China. And I would like to show you some people. So, just a second, that's the flag. That's the flag of the city, and that's the coat of arms of the city. So that's it. Well, yeah, so we had close connections with Asian part, but what is Asia? Can you answer this question? What is Asia? What Asian countries can you name? Can you name any Asian countries? Can you? Okay, can you read what countries can be called Asian? So that's what you hear. Oh, that's what you see here. That's all Asia. See how huge it is. So how many countries are here? And if you look at this map, why are there different colors? Why do you think? Why are there different colors? Do you have any ideas? Do you? So, here we do not have Russia, but Russia is called the northern part of Asia. So that's the North Asia. If we look at the pink part, that's East Asia, right? If we look at the blue part, that's Central Asia. The green part is South Asia. This part is West Asia. And the pink part is Southeast Asia. So where is Indonesia? In what part of Asia? In what color? Pink, right, sure. So here you are. Here you are. Somewhere here, yeah? Okay. Since the foundation, so our city was founded in 1858, and we had some people who came from Japan and who came from China to work and to live in Khabarovsk, in the Russian part. In historical books, it said that during the time when Khabarovsk was a military post, there were 3,000 Russian people and there were 500 Chinese people. Do you see the proportion? So 3,000 and 500. The number of Chinese people were just huge. And in 1900, there were 15,000 Russian people and there were 8,000 Chinese people. So you understood that our territory were closely connected. But at that time, these are people, these are Chinese people of those times who lived in our city, in Khabarovsk. These are noble, just families and some military people. But in historical books it's written that at those times Chinese blocks had the reputation of something cheap, of something illegal, but now the situation has changed. Now China is the major partner of our city and we have some business to do with China. And there were more people coming to our place. These were Japanese people. And at those times, Japanese were called the Frenchmen of the Russian territory. Why the Frenchmen? France, Frenchmen. Do you have any associations? France and Frenchmen. Why Frenchmen? Do you have any associations with that? So French, when we say that she's from France or he's from France, we say that this person is exquisite. So with good taste, with good manners, yeah? So, and that's why Japanese people were called Frenchmen of our territory. And I want to show you how one man from Japan influenced the development of our city. His name is Ichidze Takeuchi, and this is his family. He came to Khabarovsk when he was 26 years old, and he wanted to be a photographer. But life was a bit different, and he had to do some fishery. He saved some money. Well, he did quite a good business in fishery, so he saved some money, and he rented a land from church. The task was to build a house. That's the house which he built. To build a house with electricity, with running water, and just with everything. And then in 20 years, he had to give it back to the church. Well, actually, he managed to build this city in 2 years, and to build this house, yes. So to build this house in 2 years, and this house became a very, very popular place among people. That was the hotel, and that was the shop, and there was the restaurant. And if you look at this picture, the light pink building, it is still in the center of our city, and it is still the restaurant, and there's still the shop, and there's still the hotel. So you see how one person made a history. Okay, let's proceed, and just a second. Now, my next slide. Yeah, I told you that this territory belonged to China, and there were some tribes, and we do still have like national tribes which are living at the territory, and they're mostly Nanai people, Udege people, and Ulchi people. So the portion of the Siberian Pacific is formed by the lower Amur Basin, and the Amur River is the largest in Siberia, and that was a kind of the route for other people to come to our territory. And that's how there was a mixture of ideas, there was a mixture of culture, and patterns which you have at the airport of Jakarta. And I caught myself on the idea that you have the same practical, you have the same patterns. And these are the pictures which were done by a very famous painter from the Russian Far East. He went around the territory of the Amur Basin and he collected the patterns. And then he combined it into pictures using the patterns of Chinese people, of Japanese people, of Aboriginal people from the territory, and you may see what he drew. So these are the national ornamental patterns. Do you recognize some of yours in those patterns? It seems to me there are some curves, there are some lines. And here you can see the symbolic animal again. So the tiger, and just, you see, so maybe it's difficult to understand first that it's a tiger, but so there's the girl and there's the tiger, and these are the pictures for the Amur fairy tales. Actually, if you want, you may have a closer look. I brought some real pictures. So here they are. And if you want, you may come up and you may have a look at the pictures, yeah? So next, so the bear. You do see the bear and some deers and some grass. Yeah, so here. Okay. Well, there's another place which symbolizes the connection between Asian countries and the Russian Far East. It's important to say that this place is called by UNESCO. Do you know what UNESCO is? So that's the organization that tries to preserve the world heritage. And so they name this place as a historical heritage of the world. Actually, there are these carvings or pictures. This is the famous mask, this one the famous mask, and this is the fish. And they are depicted on the rocks. And there are more than 200 or 300 rocks. So, and they are located in the Nanai village. So people come there and they have excursions, and it is proved that we have close ties with Asian countries and Asian traditions. Well, now let's pass on. Well, but not only ornamental patterns were interested, were the interest for other people. Maybe you've heard about Akira Kurosawa. Have you? Akira Kurosawa, he is a famous Japanese film director. And he also was interested in ties between Japan, Russia, the Russian Far East, and he heard a story about one Nanai guide and our explorer, Arsenio. And he made a film which got the Oscar for the best foreign film. And that's about the Khabarovsk, so that's about the Russian Nanai, just guys. And I would like you to watch, if it's possible, just Explorer. What about the sound? No sound. From the beginning. Okay, just please watch. That's Dersu Zala, you may see him. That's the real story that happened in reality. That's Arseniev, the Russian explorer. And that's real Dersu Zala.
In Dersu Zala, winner of the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film, Akira Kurosawa, creator of The Seven Samurai and Rashomon, brings to the screen perhaps his greatest masterpiece. Set against the breathtaking backdrop of Siberia's majestic wilderness, this story of an army engineer and his guide is told on an even, human scale. Side by side, they battle nature's savage forces and its infinite history.
Historical and cultural ties of our territory with China and Japan, but it seems to me that it's completely necessary to speak about the relations between Indonesia and Russia. And you see so that they have like a very good partnership and they have some projects. Maybe you know what are the fields of the cooperation between Indonesia and Russia. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any, well, do you know anything? What projects are between Russia and between Indonesia? Okay, I will tell you and you will know. So, the first one is the weapon. Well, do you know the word weapon? Like tanks and some super jets and, well, just something which you protect your country from. And you know that Indonesia has bought 16 super fighters. I will show you. Super fighters, so Jet 35. And they are in the process of buying 33 more fighters. And what is interesting, the plant where they assemble these planes are close to the city where I'm from. This is Komsomolsk on Amur. So, and that's just 2 hours by bus from Khabarovsk. That's where I'm from. This is the aircraft plant where all these military planes are assembled. So another sphere of cooperation is the railway construction. heard that there is the project for the railway in Kalimantan Island. Well, have you heard? Well, do you know that Kalimantan? Well, Kalimantan. Yeah, and so they have agreed. No, not this one. So they have agreed to construct the railway, and the Russian part will construct all infrastructure. So they will construct, they will bring carriages, and the length, let me see, the length of the project is 217 kilometer long infrastructure. So the road will be really very long, and they will carry 1,100 carriages, and there will be a toll and electro station. So that's it. And another thing, well, let's go back. Another thing, so the National Nuclear Energy Agency of the Republic of Indonesia and Rosatom, so that's the Russian nuclear energy company, they signed a memorandum of understanding. What does that mean? It means that they will have mutual cooperation in training, in teaching, in the field of nuclear energy, peaceful nuclear energy. And there's another, well, but I do not have the picture of it. Rosneft, that's the big Russian oil company, together with Indonesian partners, they're going to build an oil refinery plant of the capacity of 24 billion tons per year. So that's great project. And we hope that our economic ties will only grow. Well, and I hope that you learned something about the historical ties between the Russian powers and between the Asian countries, but I'm here also to speak more, well, to tell you more about Russia. And I have brought something to show you, some patterns of traditional culture. And now I will try again to show you some things. My question is, would you like to learn something more about Russia? Would you? Well, maybe that will be funny, but I brought some cartoons to show you. Because cartoons, that's how we are developing, and that's how we educate our people. And these cartoons are very famous in Asian countries. I will ask now to be famous in Asian countries, in Japan and in China. That animal is called Chipurashka.
Did you write this?
This animal.
Of course.
And that's crocodile Gena.
That's good that you're green and flat.
What?
Now,
That's another movie, I mean cartoon.
who my cow is? Well, my friends, let's take him into the house. Why don't we take his mother as well? We'll have a lot of fun.
I wonder who he belongs to.
What do you mean? He belongs to us.
No, he doesn't. Who owns the cow? The state. We're granted it. So the cow also belongs to the state.
Shut up, Sherry, please. The cow belongs to the state, but all the rest belongs to us. Milk or cow.
What's your name?
That's another very famous cartoon.
What's yours and mine?
Junior.
No, Junior will not get it. Here's the proper way. Mom's name is Carlson on the roof. You like it?
Yes.
You can simply call me Carlson. Well, hello, Junior.
Hello, Carlson.
Now we can continue our conversation. How are they?
7.
What's 7?
Something wrong?
No, I thought you were...
And that's Winnie the Pooh. That's not the Russian one, but this cartoon is very famous.
Just get around.
Let me ask you, seriously, bad news lately. Evil lost his name.
Why did he lose?
nursery, so he has neither a tail nor birthday presents.
Who?
Are they asleep or what?
Who? But this is your house.
Oh, well,
Okay, and maybe something else. Let's wait a bit. That's like Tom and Jerry, but that's the Russian idea. That they will be the wolf and the rabbit. Traditional music and everything. Traditional village. Traditional clothes. Have you? So that's not as, well, actually it is handmade and all matryoshkas have different faces. And if we look inside, there will be small toys. the spoon. The wooden spoon, and I will show you how we use the spoon. I remember my time when I was a girl, I used to eat with this spoon, and we have the traditional pattern. It's called khakhlama, so that's the color, golden, red, and black. And people use these spoons not to eat only, but to play music. Shall we watch how they did it? Shall we? Okay. These souvenirs from Russia, if you answer some questions. Are you ready to answer some questions? So, and I hope that you remembered something. You remembered something about the territory, about Russia, and maybe the first question to answer, for you to answer, and to get maybe this cockerel is, what is the name of the city where I'm from, and in what part is it? Who can answer this question?
Siapa yang bisa menjawab pertanyaan Dr. Olga, dia akan memberikan pertanyaannya. Okay.
Where I'm from, and where is it?
Dia berasal dari kota mana dan bagian mana dari Asia? Ada yang bisa menjawab? Silakan katakan.
And it's in Far East Russia.
Right, you are. Here you are. To mark the border of the modern Khabarovsk territory, how many treaties? There were several treaties signed to mark the border. Purnama, maybe you can translate that. Okay, so how many treaties were there to mark the borders of the Russian territory, of the Russian Far East territory? Absolutely, absolutely. See, let me repeat, okay? The Treaty of Nerchinsk, Aigun Treaty, and Beijing Treaty. Right, Shuan? Here you are. All the mutual projects between Indonesia and Russia.
Oke, siapa yang bisa menyebutkan proyek besar antara Rusia dan Indonesia?
No, you know. You were the first. Okay, just tell me.
Sukhoi.
Yeah, right, sure. And where is the aircraft? Keep on saying. Yeah, this is the first one. The next. The next. Unfortunately, you can't share that. Okay, let me remind. So, okay, 3. Okay, so these are the aircraft. These are the nuclear energy, memorandum of nuclear energy, and all the railway instructions. Here you are. The aircraft, Sukhoi Superjet. What is the name of the city? You must know that. Okay, what is the name of the city? So I saw your hand, no? What is the name of the city where the superjets, fighter jets, are produced? Who remembers?
Tempat pembuatan.
Sukhoi Superjet. The name of the city. Here, but the city where the planes are made.
Kalimantan.
No. That's where the railway will be built. But I'm talking about the city in Russia. No, unfortunately.
Nama
So
tempat
who can name it?
bukan Khabarovsk, tapi bagian dari negara Rusia, negara bagian dari, maksudnya dari bagian lain dari Rusia.
No?
Siapa yang bisa jawab? Di mana dibuat pesawat Sukhoi itu?
So maybe you can try? Yeah, please. Комсомол on Amur. Just a second. From Vladivostok. And this is with the sea salt. That's the landmark of our territory.
Jadi seperti kita ketahui bersama bahwa perkuliahan ini disponsori oleh One Asia Foundation. Sebenarnya apa sih tujuan dari One Asia Foundation itu memberikan dana yang cukup besar ke negara-negara Asia untuk memberikan semacam perkuliahan dan aktivitas lainnya yang tidak lain tujuannya adalah ingin membentuk dunia yang satu tanpa batas, artinya tidak ada lagi ini orang Indonesia, ini orang Malaysia, ini orang Rusia, tetapi tanpa batas, kita semua satu adalah satu dunia. Jadi tujuannya adalah untuk supaya kita ini hidup dalam damai, ya, dan aman. Terus siapa sih yang harus melakukan atau untuk mewujudkan tujuan ini? Siapa? Ya kita, kalian generasi muda terutama adalah orang-orang yang nanti harus membuat atau menjadikan hal ini menjadi kenyataan. Jadi hal yang paling mudah itu adalah dengan cara memahami budaya dari negara-negara lain, ya. Kita memahami, kemudian menghormati, dan misalnya di suatu saat nanti misalnya kita berada di event yang internasional, kita tetap membawa budaya kita dengan attitude yang positif, jadi dengan manner kita yang baik, kemudian kita hormati budaya orang lain. Insya Allah nanti hal ini bisa membuat perdamaian dunia. Nah, pada sore hari ini Dr. Olga tidak akan berbicara tentang masalah politik, diplomasi, dan sebagainya. Dia hanya ingin menceritakan sekilas tentang di mana dia berasal, yaitu dari Khabarovsk. Jadi Khabarovsk ini adalah merupakan negara bagian Rusia, tetapi letaknya itu berada di timur jauh. Jadi lebih dekat ke daerah, ke negara-negara Asia seperti Jepang, Korea, dan Jepang dan Korea dan Cina, ya. Jadi kalau kita lihat tadi dia mulai bertanya apakah kita mengenal sedikit tentang Rusia. Tadi dia bertanya tentang benderanya yang nomor berapa, tadi dijawab sudah nomor 2, ya. Dan kemudian siapa sih pimpinan negaranya? Di situ ada foto dari Donald Trump, kemudian beberapa tokoh lainnya, dan kita tahu bahwa Rusia dipimpin oleh Vladimir Putin. Kemudian juga tentang logo. Biasanya negara itu, kalau Amerika itu kan terkenal dengan bisonnya. Nah, kalau Rusia adalah beruang. Dan kalau tadi gajah itu biasanya identik dengan India, ya. Kemudian tadi diberikan juga contoh di mana sih Rusia berada. Dia berada di benua Asia. Jadi kalau tidak salah di sebelah kiri yang biru itu adalah Amerika. Dia berada di posisi tengah, dan yang satunya lagi itu adalah Australia. Oke. Kemudian ya sedikit tentang bagaimana daerah Khabarovsk-nya itu, bagaimana influensi pengaruh orang-orang Asia. Jadi dulu ada yang namanya orang dari Jepang, ya, namanya Takeshi, keluarga Takeshi. Jadi mereka ini awalnya adalah seorang fotografer, kemudian juga merchant itu artinya menyiapkan menjual barang-barang yang kayak homemade gitu, ya, kalau tidak salah, souvenir. Jadi Khabarovsk ini banyak dipengaruhi oleh negara-negara Asia seperti Jepang, Cina, dan Korea Selatan. Kemudian kalau tidak salah pada abad 17 itu mulailah Rusia sendiri mulai mengembangkan Khabarovsk ini ya. Kemudian mereka juga punya hal-hal misalnya lukisan-lukisan ya, tadi diberikan contohnya lukisan. Kemudian ada yang paling terkenal dan masuk dalam daftar kekayaan dunia UNESCO yaitu Sikachi Island. Itu seperti mungkin kalau kita punya Borobudur, jadi dia kayak batuan, ada reliefnya, jadi semacam itu ya. Jadi namanya Sikachi Islands. Dan Rusia ini, kalau kita kan punya laut, kalau di daerahnya mereka di Khabarovsk itu mereka punya river, sungai, ya. Tapi sayangnya kemarin tadi saya tanya, tapi mereka sudah tidak berenang di sungai lagi karena sudah terpolusi. Waktu dulu dia masih anak-anak, dia sering main di sungai. Kemudian tadi dia menceritakan ada film tentang bagaimana negara tetangga utamanya Asia itu dengan hubungannya dengan orang-orang Rusia. Kemudian ada animasi juga. Kemudian yang dia catat di sini adalah kerjasama Indonesia dan Rusia. Jadi ada beberapa kerjasama besar antara Indonesia dan Rusia tadi sudah dinyatakan, misalnya dalam hal militer, ada Sukhoi, ada untuk senjata, jual beli senjata ya, jadi kita membeli dari Rusia. Kemudian juga Rusia akan membantu kita untuk membuat railway jalan kereta ya di Kalimantan. Kemudian juga ada program tentang nuklir, jadi untuk penelitian. Kemudian ada juga banyak ya, ada bantuan juga dari Rusia tentang membangun Indonesia yang lebih baik untuk dalam hal mengatasi polusi, dan kemudian untuk meningkatkan perdagangan ya, penghasilan Indonesia juga. Kemudian mungkin itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Jadi nanti untuk misalnya ada hal-hal yang ingin ditanyakan tentang sekilas tentang Khabarovsk atau Rusia, silakan ditanyakan. Kita punya waktu kurang lebih 25 menit untuk sesi pertama. Saya persilakan 3 penanya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, perkenalkan nama saya Mama Nini dari program studi Bahasa Indonesia. Jadi tadi kan jelaskan bahwa Khabarovsk itu berdekatan dengan negara Cina, Jepang, ataupun Korea. Jadi yang ingin saya tanyakan, apakah ada pengaruh bahasa apakah ada pengaruh bahasa dari ketiga negara tersebut yang berpengaruh terhadap Khabarovsk tersebut? Mungkin hanya itu. Terima kasih.
Okay. Do you want to directly answer or we just
some Japanese words like sushi, rolls, yeah, so these are the names of the traditional food. But here I can answer your question not about the influence but about the popularity of Oriental languages. In the territory where I'm from, not French, not German, not Italian language are popular, but Korean, Chinese and Japanese languages. Lots of people from Khabarovsk want to get education in China because they have some state scholarship from China. That's how China attracts new people. And the same is with the Japanese. Lots of my students, when I used to work at the university, we had 2 languages, English and Japanese or Chinese, because nowadays the world is turning to Asia. And here, I think, we cannot talk about the influence on the Russian language, but how popular the Oriental languages are in Russia nowadays. So, have I answered your question? Okay, so thank you for the question. More, please.
Okay.
Saya dari program studi Bahasa Indonesia. Pertama saya juga masih membahas mengenai bahasa. Dan kita ketahui bahasa Indonesia itu berasal dari bahasa Melayu atau Malaysia. Nah, yang saya ingin tanyakan, sejarah bahasa Rusia itu seperti apa, dari negara apa? Kemudian sebelum masa Uni Soviet, Kekaisaran Rusia pernah berada di bagian negara Asia, di bagian Asia Tengah, khususnya di negara Turkmenistan. Lalu mengapa Turkmenistan menggunakan bahasa Rusia? Terima kasih.
Indonesian language use, I mean not use, but similar with the Malayu bahasa, Malayu language. So, a part of Russia, before Russia, we know the Soviet before.
Soviet Union.
Soviet Union,
Yes.
Soviet Union. There is any part of the Russia, apa tadi namanya? Turkmenistan, was occupied by dijajah oleh Rusia. It's occupied by Russia, but now
They are separate republics, and Turkmenistan was one of them. And when in 1991 the Soviet Union collapsed and Perestroika came, and Gorbachev came, and Yeltsin came, and former Russian republics were striving for fighting for independence, and that's how Turkmenistan appeared. And it doesn't mean that we conquered the land; it was the part of it, and then it acquired independence.
My name is Iqbal. Saya dari Prodi Sejarah. Saya tanyakan, Dr. Olga itu kan seorang pejuang di bagian Rusia di daerah asalnya. Jadi saya tanyakan di sini bagaimana dengan itu sosial pendidikan yang bagian pendekatan di negara-negara lain. Jadi saya tanyakan itu dengan sosial pendidikan. Masalah pendidikannya di negara-negara berdekatan dengan negara-negara lain kayak di daerah asalnya.
Our education starts with the primary level. When a child is 3 years old, he or she goes to the kindergarten, and there they stay till the 7 years of age. Then they go to primary school, which is 4 years. Then they go to the secondary school, that's the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. For 5 years, till the 9th grade. Then they take state exams, and after the 9th grade, they may go to different colleges. But some people, some students, would like to continue their education, and they have 2 more years in high school, so the 10th and the 11th grade. After that, they go to universities and they do institutes. We used to have the education at the institute or university for 5 years, but now the situation has changed, and now all universities offer 2 programs, bachelor degree and master degree. But usually when I was a student, I studied for 5 years, and when I graduated the institute, well, the university, I entered the institute, but I graduated the university. I was a specialist. For me, it wasn't necessary to take the master degree, but now I call it master because there's no equivalent for the specialist degree. And then, when you're clever enough, and when you want to continue your research, you do some postgraduate studies. So that's the system of education.
Saya dari program studi PPKN 2015. Yang saya dapat dari materi ini, yang saya ketahui juga bahwa Rusia itu memiliki kekayaan bumi, gas, logam dan kayu yang melimpah, dan merupakan negara terbesar di dunia. Jadi, dengan sungai yang tadi kami ceritakan yang setelah mengalami tercemar, sungai yang di daerah yang tadi tercemar, apakah pengelolaan dari sumber daya tersebut telah berdampak kerusakan yang begitu parah sehingga mengakibatkan bagaimana kehidupan dengan masyarakat yang ada di sekitar sungai tersebut, khususnya di daerah yang sendiri, dan apa upaya atau bagaimana cara pemerintah yang ada di sana melihat Mungkin ada daerah lain di sekitar sana yang juga terkena dampak dari sungai yang telah tercemar tersebut. Terima kasih.
Along the usage. Well, yes, you're right. Russia is huge and we have numerous resources. That's oil, gas, food, fish, and natural resources. So we have also seas, but water around. Well, you're right here, and we have some policies here. For example, you cannot catch fish without getting a license. And they have some norms. Yeah, so they have norms. You cannot catch more than this number. And of course, you cannot cut wood without permission. You also can get the license to do that. But I'm talking about fish and about wood, but we have coal, we have gas and oil, and these are the state resources, so they belong to the state. And they have their own policies, what to sell, how much to sell, and how to reduce maybe the pollution. And we are in the process of discovering more places with natural resources. We are talking about Antarctic. So that's the sea, that's the land which is full of natural resources, and the Russian Federation is trying to mark the border as well. But we have some days without us, maybe to reduce the pollution and to preserve the natural resources. And we try to use new building materials because nowadays we do not have houses which are made of wood. So, and we have new technology of recycling things. And for example, in Khabarovsk, we have a huge plant of recycling the garbage. So, and we can reuse it. So, yeah, we're trying to do something to save for other populations.
Perkenalkan, my name is Alibus.
I understand you.
Saya sendiri dari Prodi Bahasa Indonesia. Simpel saja nih. Yang ingin saya tanyakan itu ada sangkut-pautnya dengan pendidikan komunitas Asia atau kita sebut dengan Asia yang satu. Dari daerah negara Anda sendiri dengan saya ambil ke Indonesia. Kita tahu Indonesia ini banyak perbedaan, Bu. Mungkin bukan banyak perbedaan, banyak. Contohnya budaya itu kami lekat itu dengan budaya yang berbeda-beda. Itu dari segi budaya, mungkin ada dengan yang lainnya dari segi pendidikan, mungkin dari segi bahasa. Nah, ingin saya sampaikan bagaimana Anda melihat dan Anda mencari solusi. Kalau memang itu sebuah masalah, bagaimana Anda mencarikan solusi? Rusia atau daerah Anda tersebut, nama daerahnya tadi apa? Khabarovsk itu dengan Indonesia ini, karena bagaimana? Karena Indonesia ini mungkin banyak lekat dengan perbedaan, mungkin sukunya banyak, bahasanya banyak. Nah, bagaimana Anda melihat dan bagaimana Anda mencari solusi jika itu sebuah masalah antara Khabarovsk tadi ini dengan Indonesia untuk membentuk satu Asia yang satu, gitu.
Different, maybe ethnic groups, yeah, so we're talking here about ethnic groups. Well, actually, the best way to overcome difficulty is to talk to people, to share culture, and try to understand what we are like. Because sometimes people think that this nationality is bad, this nationality is the supreme and take the upper hand. No. If we talk to people and try to strive for one goal, there will be peace. In Russia and in the place where I'm from, we also have several ethnic groups, but the majority of us are Russians and our state language is the Russian language. But we have different ethnic communities. And we have the days of those communities in our city. For example, the days of Korean culture, the days of Nanai people, the days of German culture, and where they're trying to show the difference and sometimes how to say that, some similar things between cultures. Well, that's it. We do not have huge problems between ethnic groups in Russia. But if we talk about maybe Ukrainian people, and you've heard about the conflict, but that's another topic, and there should be some preparation to talk about that. Okay. Can you translate? So, was my lecture interesting to you?
Apakah perkuliahan beliau karena
Thank you very much, because I was working hard and I hope you like it. Thank you.